Presented by Litify, I'm Bill Biggs, and this is Transforming the Culture of Law. Today is going to be a groundbreaking podcast for us. We're going to talk about some topics that don't get talked about enough, but we're going to dive into them with a powerful guest, Jen Gore-Cuthbert. We were just talking about what it's like to have a hyphenated name, but I'm going to say I'm Jen Gore-Cuthbert. We're going to make that name like just pop off of people's fingertips, off their lips. Jen has taken a law firm and grown this law firm into one of the fastest growing woman-owned law firms in America, obviously, particularly with PI. She just came back from being named at a meeting, being named on the Inc. 5000 list. And she's got some interesting things to share about what it was like as a woman owner of it, not just a law firm, but of a business in that space. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about leadership, and we're going to talk about what we can do, what needs to happen in the industry to see more women fulfill the potential that they have and the opportunity that they have in the industry, and to inspire others to be everything they can be in this space, in this industry. Jen, thank you very, very much for being here. You are becoming a star in the industry. People are hearing your name, all hyphenated and everything. And you're making an impact, and you're doing a lot of good for the people of Georgia and Atlanta. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill, so much for having me. I remember when I first started to become aware of you and all the amazing work that you're doing. I went to like 2 conferences back to back, and you were up on stage talking about culture. And my team was like, that guy, we need to know that guy. He's saying some interesting stuff. So this is so exciting to be here today talking to you about culture.
Well, thanks for those kind words. I think one thing that I've noticed that really resonates with me about you is that you're extremely sincere. You carry yourself with an authenticity. Every time I've seen you, even on your social media, you're just genuine. And I think that resonates with me. Culture is the one thing that I can do decent in the world. And it just means so much to me, right? That how we treat our people, how we as leaders grow other leaders and grow our teams, and how satisfying it is to be a part of seeing good things happen in other people's lives that we get to, have on our teams, and then also our clients, of course, and then turning that into success in a business industry and helping, people make more money, help them be more prosperous, help them be more successful. You have an authenticity about you. You have a presence about you. You're building a law firm. You've built a law firm. It's growing, one of the fastest growing. What's that been like over the last few years? Tell us about being named on the Inc. 5000 list and what it was like being a woman owner on that list.
Well, first, I just want to thank you for bringing culture to the forefront of the legal industry. I think that it was always kind of a topic, but you have made it where it's getting the attention that it needs. And back in 2018, I spent like the entire year on culture. And that was a real turning point for me and the law firm. But this past year has been really exciting, getting ranked on the Inc. 5000. That was a goal we had. The firm is about to be 10 years old, and it seems like we've been in high growth mode for the last 10 years. So it's kind of like it's always been this way, right? But I think at certain points you start to get more traction. Mm-hmm. And it feels like we've gotten a lot more traction maybe in the last 3 years. And so it's been really exciting. I love what I do every day. It's not without its challenges, but it's really, really rewarding and exciting to build and create an amazing law firm.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes people talk about not wrapping your identity up with what you do or with your work. Totally disagree. I think it is an absolute blessing and privilege that my work and what I get to do every day energizes me. It is my identity is lived out in it, and I can see that in you as well. That you love what you do, and it's a part of who you are. You can't pull apart who you are as a person from the fact that you have started a law firm and you are growing a law firm. At Inc. 5000, how many women own businesses and how many women own law firms were in among that group?
I just feel like I've been doing my thing, doing what I do, and like then one day you realize like, oh, there's not a lot of women-owned law firms. It's kind of weird. Or if there are, they're not that big. But when we were at the Inc. 5000, it was really special. I brought my husband and my dad, and we're just so excited to be there. You're around amazing entrepreneurs, people they're saying things like these people are changing the world, and it's just a really amazing experience going. And then they get up and they say like, well, there's only 5 women-owned companies that were on the list this year out of 5,000. And I'm sitting at the table with my friend Audrey, who owns a law firm in Orlando, and I'm like, we're 2 of the 5, and it was like kind of weird. And that doesn't mean there aren't other amazing women-owned companies or law firms, but this is like firms that are growing very fast.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just mind-numbing that on that list, in that group, that at that event, 5, and 2 of them were law firms, or at least as far as you know. Obviously that speaks to some issues, right? And I don't know that I understand all the issues as well as I should, but why do you think it is? Why don't we see more woman lawyers who not only are on a team somewhere as a lawyer, because there's a reasonable number, but you just don't see a lot of women who actually start law firms, and especially you don't see large law firms, over 25, over 30, over 50 people. I just don't know of too many. And why? Why is that?
I don't know that I'm the best authority on this, because I, kind of just do my thing and found my way. But what I can say is that I never saw being a woman as a limiting factor to me in the legal industry, being a lawyer. And I think, a lot of people that know me, like I'm big into mindset. And I think what you think is more important than sometimes what the reality is. And the stories you tell yourself about what you can and cannot do really
That's huge.
And the stories you were told as a kid about what you can and can't do matter. And fortunately for me, I mean, everyone had a crazy childhood, right? But there was aspects of my childhood that I think were really good. And my dad always told me, like, you could do anything, you could be anything, you're going to own a company one day when you grow up, because my dad was an entrepreneur. And so I just think that I just always thought that would be my reality. I never, that was the narrative in my mind, is you're going to own a company, you're going to be a CEO, you're going to have an amazing career.
You believed it was possible from the beginning.
Whether or not it was true.
Well, it's true now. I mean, it came to pass, and whether it was your dad speaking it into existence, into your life, or at the end of the day, it was your decisions that you made. You did the hard work. But why do you think is that the issue, or is that one of the key issues? Do you think that our young women, our girls that we're raising in America right now, do they not believe that they can start a business, that they can become a lawyer, that they can own a law firm?
I don't think it's the traditional narrative that's told to little girls. Yeah. I think it's very confusing right now. Even all of what's going on with, different topics in our culture around gender and gender norms, everything is changing. And, a lot of it is for the good, but I do think that girls are sent very mixed messages. There's kind of like still a divide on like, there's camps that think women shouldn't even work. I mean, and then there's people that think women should work. And so I think it's very confusing growing up as a little girl, like what is acceptable? What do I want? Yeah. And I think your parents' point of view on that can impact you. You know, I will say that when I was first starting out my law firm, and until I had, you know, I had my daughter 2 months before I started the law firm. So
Wow.
she was 2 months old when I started the law firm.
You
And
had two babies within 2 months of each other.
yeah, she's always like the same age as the law firm. But I took the bar 9 months pregnant. I got my license and I opened the law firm all within like 3 months.
Wow, I didn't know
So
that. That's something else.
yeah, and um another caveat to that story is I initially failed the bar, and I was really like early pregnant, like maybe 3 or 4 months. And then I had to take it again at 9 months pregnant because, you know, they only do it every 6 months. So she really went through the bar a lot. Um,
Wow.
but
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, so you know, I did get people giving me pushback about like, well, you have a baby, you know, why are you starting a law firm? Or like,
Yeah.
isn't that too much? And like, I don't know that people would say that to a guy if he had a wife who just had a baby and then he started a law firm.
Yep.
You know, I don't know.
I tell you, I do think just look, you're far more the expert, obviously, on this than I am. I'm not the expert anywhere close to it, but having seen over the years some amazing leaders who happen to be women, and seeing what they experienced, the challenges they experienced being active moms, especially of young children, and being career driven women. There are a lot of social narratives, right, or messages about whether or not you should or should not. And just truthfully, there are a lot of narratives that you're a bad mom if you're a career woman. There's you hear
Yeah.
that, right? Yeah.
And that term mom guilt.
Yeah.
So I used to actually, if I'm really honest, I used to struggle with that when my kids were younger. I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And I was so fortunate to be in this business coaching program very early on that was heavy into personal development. And they started having us do like a lot of personal development. They kept saying, like, you're not going to rise as a professional until you work out your own issues, you know? And so we just got really deep into it. And when you work through like your stuff and you get really clear on who you are and what you stand for, you're less impacted by those critics.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing we did was we hired a parenting coach, and like we went through this really deep like boot camp on like what we want to do as parents, and like our whole like, you know, you do everything like so intentionally and then you're just arbitrarily a parent and you're not thinking through. So my freedom was really when I got so crystal clear on what I believe about my parenting and what I believe about myself, that I became like, you can't, you can't, whatever you say, it doesn't bother me.
Right. Because, and that's true of all of us to some degree. We all have to overcome, whether it's an internal monologue, right, or external, those tapes that play that tear down our confidence or our belief in ourselves. So to some degree, we all have that. But what you're saying is so accurate, so appropriate, and so tragic, that as a woman who is wanting, who feels driven to do something career-wise that is big and bold, and you know, and be a mom as well at the same time, there are lots of messages, not just from within. They wouldn't be there from within, probably. It's from the outside, and then they get planted. Those seeds get planted in you that you've got to overcome that. So it's not just the hard work of it, right? The day-to-day grind of living a life as a parent and as a business owner, but it's the messages that say, you're bad for doing this. You're not, you need to devote this much, you know, you're not devoting enough time to this. Men don't really have that same issue. Sometimes, but we almost get a badge of honor if we are, you know, if we work all the time and we, you know, and look, men, we have our own issues and we're driven in certain ways and all that, but we don't deal with that question. And so we don't have any reason not to reach for and go for everything that we want professionally, because nobody's saying to us, oh, well, your son's 4, you shouldn't be working.
And I think that being really clear with what your values are, like, so I did this exercise where I wrote down what I believe it means to be a good mom. And my definition could be dramatically different than my neighbors. A lot of us are like, our values or what we think is important is very different, like, and I am not here to say that my way is for everyone. My way is for me. The conflict that I kept running into was, I know that I was designed to do work. Like, am a creative being. I love business. It's my passion. It ignites me. It makes me feel alive. I can spend hours talking business with people. When I was a kid, my dad would have all his friends over that were entrepreneurs, and I would sit in the dining room and listen to them talk. And I knew that that part of me wouldn't have been created if it wasn't to be utilized.
Yeah, it was there for a reason.
And so for me to be at home and not working, I wouldn't have been living within my purpose. And so
powerful.
I felt like my children, I have a belief that my children chose me to be their mom, and I am who I am. And if I honor who I am, that's honoring all parts of myself, which includes my business side. And so the narrative I tell my kids is, oh my God, I get to go to work today. I get to meet with these people. I get to help these people. I get to spend time with the amazing people on my team. And I never tell the story about it being a negative. And I bring them to work, and they're aware. Now, is there sacrifices we have to make? I don't know, anybody that doesn't have to make sacrifices, but I'm very conscious that the story we tell our children about our lives is very powerful.
This is so good. I had no idea that you would go in this direction. But that is really, really powerful. The story that we tell our children about our lives and about our work has such an impact. And I believe that 100%, right? Many people know I don't really like the phrase work-life balance. I think it makes work sound like it's a negative. And so you gotta only, right? Work pulls you down. And so you got to have some life in order to balance it out. I think that's garbage. And I think we plant that seed of garbage into people, and therefore they just are like programmed to think work is bad. I love work. And I don't think that's just a male trait. As you are an example of, a lot of us, male, female, it doesn't matter. We want to contribute. We want to be a part of the world. We want to do something. You said you had a sense of purpose. There was a drive in you. Little girls, little boys too, but little boys sometimes hear it naturally more often. Little girls need to hear that message, right? They need to hear.
Maybe not every little girl, but there are little girls out there that are like me, maybe there are little girls who dream of growing up and being a stay-at-home mom. And
sure, nothing wrong with that.
But I'm just saying that there are girls out there like me, and it's confusing, and I feel very grateful that I don't suffer from that mom guilt, but I hear that is a very big thing. I travel a lot. I go to a lot of conferences, and when I'm working, I'm really happy working. And when I'm home with my kids, I'm really happy there. I make sure that we have the infrastructure in place. We have a nanny, we have a housekeeper, I have an executive assistant. I have a lot of people that allow me the freedom that I have to do the things I do. And I think that's another conversation that you see out a CEO, a woman CEO, she has like an army of people behind her that make all of that possible.
Absolutely. I love this. I want to give just for a moment, because for 10 years of my life, I was around, and I'm still around a lot of amazing women who are making incredible contributions in the industry, and they're also moms and they're also spouses, and they do amazing work. But three that stuck out to me and that I've seen as models: Wesley Cagle, Claudia Yanez. These are people I used to work with. Megan Demsher, all moms, all executives, all with busy lives, all spouses. Like, they had challenges that not everybody, and especially not men, didn't have to experience, and yet did it with this level of drive, and are still doing it, by the way, with this level of drive and excellence. And I thought about it often, what message that's sending to their kids,
Okay,
especially daughters.
So, this is another kind of caveat to that, is that we are very quick to tell little girls they can live their dream. You will see a lot of people telling people you can. I mean, I was told that a lot, but I think it's more powerful for me to tell my daughter she can live her dreams because I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like, how much do you listen to the person who's telling you do this, but I'm not doing it? Like, you don't have as much credibility,
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many people that are parenting and they're pushing their kid to be an athlete, but they were never an athlete. Like, if your passion is to be an athlete, you go do it. A lot of people are living vicariously.
You're right. Yeah. Which puts a weight, right, on a burden on a child that is sometimes extraordinarily damaging.
Yeah. And my thing is, like, this is my life. I need to live my dreams and I need to do it here. And I have no connection to, I'm not saying my kids have to be a lawyer. My kids should do whatever their passion is. And I can say that with integrity, because I'm not trying to I never went to law school. Now I want my kids to go to law school. You know what I mean? You get into that mindset when you're not really living your purpose.
Yeah. Wow. So true.
This is the crazy thing. All the stuff I've learned about managing kids and the culture of the things we're talking about, a lot of it applies to your team.
Oh, 100%.
Story you tell about your law firm matters.
100%. And I always want to be delicate with it, right? I tell my team around me all the time, I said, look, it's not that we see our larger team as children. That's important. These are professionals, they're adults. But yet there is some parallel to the idea of the level of responsibility we should feel, and what an opportunity it is to lead in some capacity of another human being's life. It's not as significant as being a parent, but the people that we're leading are not children. But the way we care for people, the way we set standards, the way we the messages we send, those things are critically important. There's a lot of parallels there to being a leader of an organization, as well as being a parent. We've got a few more minutes. Any other challenges, like messages or challenges that you would share about women who want to take the next step, who want to start a law firm, who want to go to law school, who want to, tell us your heart about that.
So I went to the Women in Travel Trial Summit, and I gave a presentation there on why you should grow a larger law firm. And this was to an audience of women. And
versus a smaller law.
Correct.
Right.
And
that's interesting.
The data kind of bears out that 80% of women-owned law firms have 5 employees or less. I don't quote me 100% because I'd have to pull up my presentation, but it's somewhere in that range. People are not hiring. Women are not hiring. That's a major issue. They're not delegating. But what I wanted to tell them was, it's actually easier to run a larger law firm because you have higher level professionals working there. You have the ability to create a leadership team, and you get to do cooler things. You get to make a bigger impact. And there's this myth that, like, you'll hear people say, oh, I don't want the stress of all those people. Or like,
Mm.
there's this idea that like more people, more problems. And it's just the reality is that hasn't been my experience. And you're not giving yourself the experience of having a law firm at a higher level. So you're seeing a lot of these women with maybe they have 3 employees. They're burning out because you can only stay at that level for so long. It's very taxing to run a law firm where you are doing everything.
Everything's dependent on you.
How long can you do that without?
Yeah,
I mean, you
this is
hear
fascinating.
they want to retire. That's when can I stop? And so then you talk to people like a lot of my mentors that have huge law firms, and they're like, I get to run this law firm and I only get to do the parts I love. I don't have to do as much of the parts I don't love. I have amazing, smart people, smarter than me, working here, growing this thing. And it's a much more enjoyable experience.
This is fascinating, Jen. And this topic, this issue that you just brought up, that transcends any lines, gender, or anything like that, right? Because you're so right. A lot of times people are afraid of growth, or they have it in their mind. Again, these messages we hear, these things that we sometimes buy into, that it's a big firm, a growing organization is going to be more difficult. Look, I bet you could find as many people to agree with that as to disagree with. There's always going to be challenges, right, at every level. But the reality is, you're right. If people are being held back, especially if we want to see more women-owned law firms, and if people have this narrative, this messaging in their head that says, no, it's too much. I don't want to bite off that, that problem. More people. I've actually never heard that. More people, more problems, but it doesn't surprise me that's a message that gets out there. But you're right. When you are growing, man, you're impacting more lives. You're impacting the community, and you do get to bring more people in that can help you. And that journey itself, Simon Sinek talks about the infinite game, right? It's not about just reaching a goal and winning the game. Really, it's about playing in the game and being a part of the game that keeps going and going and going well past us. Well, think about that 2 or 3 or 4 person law firm. It probably won't last beyond its founder, beyond its owner. Chances are it will scatter. But think about building a legacy that outlives you, something that goes beyond you, that impacts a lot of people. And I know this with working with a lot of owners. One of the first things I always tell an owner, if I'm going to do any consulting with them or anything, or if I'm going to work for them, it's, hey, I see my job is to give you the life you want. Like that is ultimately my job. I will be best at what I do if I can provide you with the life that you want. As an owner of a larger law firm, you have that opportunity to go and begin living and doing the things that maybe you had only dreamed of, because it's not all dependent on you, right?
So, an example of this would be when my law firm was smaller, my second child I had, and I could not take a maternity leave because there was only 3 people or 4 people there. My third child, I took a 3-month off-grid maternity leave, which, was daunting, but we engineered it over 6 months. I left multiple times and we saw what broke. And I was able to give myself an experience that I wouldn't have been able to have had the law firm been smaller and more reliant on me.
Now, this is fascinating, right? Because this loops right back to what we were just talking about, the uniqueness and the challenges, perhaps, and the messages. By being more successful, and we'll just say by growth, we'll assume for the sake of this conversation right this moment that being more successful equated to a bigger law firm, more people, that actually freed you up to also experience that side of motherhood that maybe you would have had to make some sacrifices with, right? It's fascinating, but you never would have gotten there, right? You never would have gotten to that point had you not been that driven human being that said, I want to build something. I want to grow something. Wow. Fascinating stuff. Last question as we close up, because we do talk about culture. These things that we've talked about today are things that we've never really talked about on this show. And so I'm thrilled you're a pioneer, and you pioneered us into a new place that needed to be done. So thank you for that. Tell me what role, real quick, as we close up, tell me what role you believe culture and leadership has played in the growth of your firm.
Oh my goodness. I told you in 2018, we spent the entire year pretty much on culture at the like advice of a coach that we had. I had candidly been in a place where we really hadn't defined our culture. And so we didn't say what we stand for, we didn't say what we stand against, and we were just hiring people. And my biggest challenge was when people wouldn't work out, I would look at them, and a lot of times it was a culture issue. They didn't value the same things that I valued. And, you know, you can't really get around that, even if they're very skilled. If they don't share your values, it's a constant knockout battle. And so, you know, basically out of absolute necessity and this idea that I didn't want to like suffer anymore, because I remember there was a day when I came in and I was like, I don't like any of the people that work here. And I had hired them all, but I was so clueless about hiring. I was just like, oh, they've done this job, you know, like not thinking about personality, fit, Colby, you know, disc, not thinking about any of that. Just like, oh, they were a paralegal, and you know,
let's hire them.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that obviously still are suffering like that. And so I realized like culture was really everything. It's at the heart of everything. And then we wanted our culture to be so defined that it would actually attract people and repel people.
There you go.
Because if it doesn't repel
well
people,
said,
it doesn't keep people out. So
very good. Love it.
Our culture is like at this point now where if people come in and they've kind of got through the system, maybe they didn't really show who they really were, they gamed the system, and then they get here and they're not a culture fit, the firm will like kick you out. Like you can't stay.
You're doing it right. I love it.
Yeah, that protects all of us because A players want to work with A players. And it starts to become really obvious when people aren't a culture fit, when you're really down the road a little bit. But I will say, like, culture is something you can't set and forget. You have to bang on that drum over and over, especially when you're onboarding a large volume of people, because you can go through a period where you suddenly have a bunch of new people and they disrupt your culture, you know, and they can change the culture, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. And it seems like one of the mistakes I used to make was I thought like, we've already told everyone the culture, like we have it everywhere. And like, it's a living, breathing thing. And I think that's why I love the work that you're doing, is like, this is not a like one and done thing.
So good, Jen. I appreciate you sharing that. Your story and what you're experiencing at the culture level and with your team, basically what you're saying, what I'm hearing is you've been more successful and happier because you spent some time to lay the foundation and get your culture right in your firm. You're probably growing more since you did that. You said 2018, right? And you said growth has happened in the last 3 years like it never did before. I would say there's no, that's not a coincidence, right? And so here's our message, right? To leaders, to owners, COOs, anybody in a leadership role in your firm, or even in just a place of influence in your firm, which everybody is to some degree, of course. It's this, right? You want to be more successful. You want to have the life you want. You want to enjoy your work and your life. Yes, you want to make more money. You want to do those things. Get your culture right. Get your people right. And Jen said so well, right? You want to set your culture in such a way that it absolutely attracts the type of people that you love working with, and they're going to take you to the places you want to go, but that it also repels people. It repels the folks that they realize, oh, no, I don't want to get on that train. That train is going to demand too much of me. I don't want that. Wow, if your culture isn't doing that, if people don't get that feeling when they interview with you, when they come around your firm, when they're even filling out the application, even your or the things that you put out into when you're hiring and recruiting, what do they say about who your firm really is? Be more successful, make more money, enjoy your team more, live the life you want, and do it by building culture. Jen, you've shared some incredible things today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing in the industry and in Georgia, in Atlanta, and can't wait to see you soon. Folks, we are having June 22nd and 23rd, the Blackstone Hotel in Chicago, the Law Firm Leadership Summit. Invite all of you to attend. You can go to vistact.com to register. We're going to be talking about building leaders, building culture, doing things that, as Jen said, it's not just a one-time deal. If you learn how to multiply this and do it over and over and over again, you'll get better and better and better at it, and you'll have that life that you want. Thank you so much, Jen, for being with us. Can't wait to see you whenever that is, whenever the next time that we cross paths. And folks, never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Culture of Law on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, litify.com/culture of law. And if you enjoyed this episode, which I know you did, give us a review. Send us a review, send us some comments. Maybe have Jen come and speak at your firm, come talk to you and help you get better. Thanks, guys.
Hip hop.